there are some really expensive Skylanders out there. People talk about the expensive ones a lot because everyone envies the people who have them. Everyone wants these amazing, expensive, and rare Skylanders in their collection. In today's video, we're going to be going over the rarest and most expensive Skylanders out there. This is going to be based on pricing, mainly on eBay, Mercari, and the SCL shop. Those are going to be the three main factors I'm going to be using for deciding the pricing for this video. And these are just going to be the top 10 most expensive out there currently in 2024. I haven't really seen anyone out there give just a top 10 list of the top 10 most expensive. So that's why I'm tackling this project right now today. So without further ado, let's get into it with the 10th most expensive Skylander as of today. One more thing I do want to mention is I'm not going to be counting chase variants, because if I counted chase variants, this list would pretty much be all chase variants that are extremely rare and very obscure, and they don't really do anything for you in-game. So I'm not going to be counting them. This is just going to be base figures and variants, in-game variants I'm talking about. So yep, that's what we're going to be including in this video. With the 10th most expensive Skylander. Now, this Skylander is going to be double dared trigger happy. This guy typically goes for $70 or more, which is crazy because just a few months ago, his pricing was only around $30 to $40. I was able to snag this guy for like $20 on a bid on eBay in, I believe, December. So I am shocked that he goes for like 70 plus now. But looking at the sold listings on eBay, he 100% does. Now, what's inaccurate here is if you go and look at the SCL shop, the price seems to be very low. It's only $35 for double dare trigger happy. I'm not sure why. This is definitely the best price you can find for him, and he typically, you don't see him for less than $50, but I think he's definitely like a $70 plus Skylander. I'm pretty sure he had very restricted release here in the US or something along those lines, which caused him to be as rare as he is nowadays. Now in 9th place is going to be another very infamous one, which a lot of these are definitely infamous Skylanders. This is going to be Spotlight. Of course, this is one of the very late wave new element trap team cores. Everything about that just screams, I'm going to become super rare and expensive in the future. Now Spotlight obviously is very rare. I believe she was wave 4. And her release was not done that well. And nowadays, she's very expensive. She's highly sought after. And she was just a forgotten Skylander, a core from Trap Team in the late waves, which nowadays, looking at her as one of the only, 5 light Skylanders in existence, people really want her. She typically goes for 75 plus. You can really find her anywhere from like $75 to $95, but 75 is typically the range. There's 75 to 80, I think, is a good spot to find Spotlight for, but she is definitely a very expensive Skylander. Now, coming in 8th place / 7th place, both of these I would say are basically the same price and just slightly more expensive than Spotlight. This is going to be Echo and Blackout. It's the same exact situation. Very, I believe, wave 4 Trap Team cores that are basically, they were super forgotten about, and nowadays people really want them because they are rare and no one really has them. And Echo and Blackout are both $80 plus. This is the typical pricing you'll see for them. Sometimes 85, sometimes 90, 95. Anywhere in that range, I would say, is average pricing for these, and that is crazy expensive. Nearly $100 for a single Skylander, especially when they're a forgotten core from Trap Team. Seems kind of crazy, but then again, that is why they're rare. Pretty much the same overall reasoning as Spotlight, and both these Skylanders have become extremely rare and sought after nowadays, so having them in your collection is very awesome. Now in 6th place is going to be the only actual variant on this list, and that is Royal Double Trouble. Royal Double Trouble is a very rare Skylander. I believe he only came out in the Battlegrounds starter pack, and if he was an exclusive variant in that, it kind of makes sense why he's so rare, because that I do not think sold nearly as well as any as the mainline Skylanders games did. It just did not sell nearly as well, so it makes sense this guy is expensive. But this is actually a pretty big jump. This guy goes for generally $120 plus. I've seen him go as high as like 145, but generally he doesn't really go below 120. That's crazy. For a variant of a Series 1 Skylander, Spyro's Adventure is typically the most consumer friendly as far as Skylanders that you can get. So to see a Skylander this expensive, and I know technically it was kind of in between Spyro's Adventure and Giants, and it has, I believe it's a variant of Series 1.5 Double Trouble, which is kind of weird to think about, but this guy is very rare and definitely the most expensive variant we've ever got, and the only variant that's going to be on this list, coming in at $120 on average. Now, next up in 5th place is going to be Breeze. This is one that really confuses me because I'm pretty sure Breeze came in a double pack with Pet Vac, but Pet Vac isn't rare at all. Pet Vac is a pretty average priced mini Skylander, where Breeze is $125 plus. This seems absolutely insane to me. I have no idea why Breeze is this expensive, and it really confuses me, and I think a lot of other Skylanders fans are also confused. To get her inbox is even more expensive, and that's something we're not even getting into in this video. Just a loose Breeze is like $125. This price has really gone up recently. It used to be a couple of years ago, so not too recently, but in like the 2020 to 2021 era of Skylanders collecting, Breeze was like a $50 to $60 Skylander. And that value has over doubled since then. Breeze is now worth 125 plus, I would say, which is kind of insane. Breeze, just as a mini, I do not think is worth it. Like, just get Whirlwind. If like it's the same exact experience. So, Breeze, $125 if you want to add her to your collection. There you go. Spend that insane amount. You could buy 2 full price video games nowadays. So, that's kind of insane to think about. Now in 4th place, one that I believe did not ever even release in the United States at all, and that is Thrillipede. Thrillipede is actually going to be 4th place. This guy, obviously why he's so rare is because he did not release in the US. I think there were some very rare sightings of him in the US, like only a few ever recorded of him being able to actually be found in the United States. He was not that expensive in Europe. If you want to find this guy in Europe, I do not think he's that hard to find, but in the US, this guy is very expensive, and it's kind of crazy. I mean, $130 plus is just insane for one single Skylander. I know I'm probably repeating myself at this point, but it kind of makes sense as he was barely released, as he had a very limited release, and this is the last supercharger on this list, and of course this is the last Skylander before we get to the big 3. If you're not familiar with the big 3, I'm about to introduce all 3 of them to you, starting with the 3rd rarest and most expensive Skylander of all time, and that is Wildstorm. At $150 plus to get this guy, that is a pricey Skylander right there. He does come with his own entire level though, which kind of makes up for the price. And if you got him in his actual adventure pack, you of course got the creation crystal and the magic or the magic chest with him, I guess, the Imaginite chest. So that's pretty cool. But $150 for just Wildstorm loose in 2024 is kind of crazy. Like, Wildstorm, he's an awesome Skylander, but do we really need to be spending $150 on one Skylander? I don't think so. It was just because Imaginators was pretty much already dead when he came out, and no one really bought this guy. Now in 2nd place, this is the 2nd rarest Skylander of all time, which is arguably the rarest Skylander of all time. These top 2 are very close in price, but this is going to be Green Chompy Mage, coming in at $350 plus on average. That is absolutely insane. I don't know who's spending this much when you can get his variant Jingle Bell Chompy Mage for like $50 or less. So yeah, that's kind of insane that this guy goes for $350, but he does. This is about the average pricing for him. And sometimes I see him go for even more, which is just kind of crazy. The reason this guy is expensive is actually more of an interesting and more unique story behind his rarity. And this is because he was actually released at the very start of Imaginator's life cycle, but he was an Amazon exclusive. And as this game came out like 7 or 8 years ago at this point, Amazon was not nearly as big back then. Don't get me wrong, it was still big, but it wasn't as gigantic as it is now. Not as many people used it, and you had to buy this guy exclusively in a Villain 5 pack that came with like 4 other villains, I believe, for like $100. It was crazy. I don't know who's spending $100 on side characters day one, but if you wanted to, that's how you got on Chompy Mage. If you didn't do that, there was no other option to get this guy, which is why he's so expensive nowadays. Now coming in 1st place, of course, the rarest and most expensive Skylander of all time is Robo. This was the last Skylander ever released, and there is no there's no official information on the internet for when this guy actually released. It is pretty much impossible to find concrete, solid, set in stone information for when this guy released, which makes sense and lines up perfectly with him being so rare. This guy is worth like $350 plus nowadays as well. Sometimes you see him go for $450. It is absolutely insane. This guy was the last Skylander ever released, and he did come with the Lost Imaginite Mines, which means if you went into your store and you actually saw him, if you see this guy in a pack by himself with some other random stuff for $25 next to a bunch of other senseis, by themselves for only $15, you're more likely to buy a $15 Sensei than a $25 pack. Maybe that's why he's so rare. Maybe it's because he was the last one ever released. Maybe it's because Skylanders is already dying. I'm not sure. All I know is that this guy is worth $350 to $450 nowadays, which is absolutely mind-boggling. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is more of a factual and evidence-based one, which has less of my personal opinions, but I thought I'd mix it up. I didn't really see this type of video anywhere on YouTube where someone just broke down straight up the top 10 most expensive Skylanders of all time, so I figured I'd do it. It seemed pretty cool, and it was pretty fascinating to go through all of these and pretty much explain my theories based on facts and evidence and reasoning for why they are so expensive. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye, everybody.